Hey guys, did you know that athletes started to earn so much money just recently? Back in the 1950s, no one thought that professional sports meant big money. Well, of course athletes were rich, but much less rich than they are now. Most likely due to the fact that just one person turned simple athletes into superstars of a multi-million-dollar business. Please meet Mark McCormack. Since childhood, Mark loved sports, especially football. But when he was 6, he got hit by a car, and because of the injury, doctors forbade Mark to play any kind of contact sports. That's why Mark's father decided that his son would play golf. He would hit the ball when he was in school, when he was in college, when he worked as a junior paralegal. Eventually, in 1958, he made his way to the participants in the US Open. At that time, it was the world's biggest golf tournament in terms of the number of participants. For an amateur player, this was literally the pinnacle of a career. So in the end, he somehow figured out that the real money was here, on the golf course, and not in the law office. So a huge number of people play golf. Even more watch golf. And most of all, they watch those who win. And those who win are shown on TV. And even more people watch TV. Which means that somewhere nearby lies the corresponding large amount of money, some of which should go to whoever helps this champion to take it. All this is ingenious. It's only left to find a player whom I can make an idol, and then find a way to monetize his fame. And then I'll get my share. As a potential superhero, Mark chose his old friend, professional player Arnold Palmer, who by that time turned 30 and managed to win several golf tournaments. But McCormack saw Palmer not only as a good player, but also as a natural-born showman. With his open smile, Arnold was perfect for the role of the living bearer of the American dream. So one day in 1960, Mark approached Palmer and offered to do his finances. Since the fees that Palmer received at the time for his victories were only enough to pay for travels from tournament to tournament, hotels and restaurant bills, buy equipment and modestly support his family, he agreed without hesitation. As a result, none of them have ever regretted it. It's interesting that this adventurer had no idea what exactly he was going to do. Well, yes, he knew that sports and athletes had a great potential for making money, but he was vague about how exactly to make it. And this is not surprising, because in his time, the maximum that the athletes had in the arsenal were billboards at the entrance to the stadium. And here Mark showed his genius. So, such traditional advertising is already outdated. The product can and should be associated with a specific positive image. So, here we have a nice guy, whom you can't help but please. He rolls the balls into the hole perfectly, takes care of the children touchingly, and has a wonderful smile. And it turns out that he brushes his teeth only with this toothpaste, or drinks only that water. Mark had 3 tasks. First of all, to make something like Captain America out of Palmer. Then to convince advertisers that they should fight for the opportunity to work with Palmer. And eventually to try to make sure that Palmer doesn't look like a sports car all covered with sponsored stickers. There was no problem with the first task, because Palmer was as charismatic as possible and charmed everyone with whom he communicated. Viewers, sponsors, and even rivals couldn't resist his sincere smile. But with the second problem, Mark had to work hard over the solution. He needed to figure out a way an athlete could make money outside the stadium. It was then that such currently familiar definitions and concepts were born as athlete sponsor in a specific category, corporate tournament, and license to use the name of an athlete for the name of sports equipment. Mark, like a pimp, received money from the company to let its member play golf with Palmer. But Mark didn't portray Palmer as a winner. He portrayed him as the nice guy you would like to be. And therefore, even if Palmer didn't win the game, he didn't lose the sponsorship contracts. And there's more. Even after retiring and growing into an 80-year-old man, Palmer was earning $15 million a year from advertising contracts. Because he was still that nice guy. Well, one nice guy is somehow not very much. And if you bet on one player and he loses, you lose too. What if you bet a win-win on the title sponsor? That's why Mark came up with a concept according to which there could be a sponsor not for a specific athlete, but for the whole championship. At first, many thought that Mark was offering them nonsense, and no one wanted to lay out a bunch of money for God knows what. Until one day, Mark contacted the president of Colgate and offered that he would sponsor a golf tournament. In short, you give us money and we... Shh, not a word more. Here you go. It goes without saying that Colgate man figured out that instead of the traditional advertising of toothpaste, which few people notice, he is offered a multi-million audience for the same money, where everyone will see and read the cherished word many times, which is Colgate. As a result, in the first 2 years of working with Mark, Palmer's income grew from $60,000 to $500,000. Other players saw this and also wanted to conclude contracts with Mark. Gradually, not only golfers but also tennis players, skiers, football players, figure skaters, and many other athletes became his clients. He then began working with musicians, artists, and top models, and once represented the Pope himself. Mark's company has signed contracts with Pelé, Tiger Woods, Bjorn Borg, and many others. But Mark didn't stop there. He believed that sports and television should unite. So he founded a television company to broadcast golf tournaments, shows promoting the Premier League football, Professional Surfers Association tours, and the world's strongest man competition. The company subsequently agreed to broadcast the NFL, NBA, All England Tennis Club, and Major League Baseball. In 1990, Sports Illustrated magazine named Mark the most influential man in the world of sports. But alas, he didn't have enough time to save for immortality. So he had a heart attack, 4 months of coma, and then death in 1972. But he left a huge legacy, not only monetary, but also cultural. In 2003, after Mark's death, Business Edge magazine wrote, "McCormack invented the sports business. It was he who first realized that in the golden triangle of sports, sponsorship, and television lies a huge wealth that is just waiting to be taken." Well, that's all for today. It was me, Brock from Brockley Academy, and thanks for watching!